Alrighty, people, we are now live on just about every platform, and I want to come on here real quick to just talk about the Knicks game last night and, of course, what's ahead. Of course, we know last night they lost in LA once again, this time to the Clippers, 118 to 126 against the Lakers. They couldn't get any offense going against the Clippers. They had no defense. Nothing really was working in either game, and that's obviously not ideal right now at this time of the year when we're still fighting for the second seed and possibly even the first seed, even though I don't know how realistic getting that first seed is at this point in the year. But still, you don't want to drop these games. You feel like you want to be able to win these games and not have to worry about possibly even falling to fourth, because right now we're only a game and not even a game, half a game ahead of fourth with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I want to talk about this game real fast before I jump into like really what's ahead and also looking at any comments and stuff as well. First and foremost, the Knicks right now, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. That is one of the biggest things to point out. They had that nice little winning stretch. They were one of the best teams in the NBA. They won against San Antonio, and then obviously, they had a couple other good games. They lost to Oklahoma City in a close game, but these last 2 losses that they have taken since absolutely destroying the Denver Nuggets have not been very inspiring. And I'm not going to come on here and just, be a Debbie Downer. I'm not going to, completely rip the team apart. No, they're still a good team, but it's clear that the consistency is still very much an issue at this point in the year. And that's concerning to me because by now I would have thought that maybe they would have figured things out. They would understand the system a little bit, understand each other's roles, all that good stuff, right? No, it's clear they're kind of still struggling to do that. And there's a couple players in particular that are having a harder time adjusting. And those 2 players I'm really alluding to are Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has scored 7 points in the last, 8 quarters of basketball combined. That's not acceptable for a guy who, of course, we traded 5 first-round picks for, but everyone's sick of hearing that trade package. So I'm going to add to that and say for a guy that we signed for 4 years and $150 million, that's not acceptable. And Josh Hart, he's a guy who, while he provides a lot of the little things, the lack of spacing, the inability to, pull threes at a quick rate, is hurting the Knicks offense. The spacing has been brutal with him on the floor, at least as the starters. The Knicks constantly find themselves starting games really slow, getting down double figures, having to make comebacks. Credit to them in the second half. Yesterday, they did almost make a pretty nice comeback, being down by like 15 points or something like that. But ultimately, the turnovers hurt them. They had 20 turnovers last night. And the lack of shooting. Second game in a row where they could not hit any 3-pointers, at least for most of the game. Landry Shamet had one of his worst games of the season, probably his first cold game in a while. And of course, as I mentioned before, Bridges and Hart not really providing much. A positive I will put from this game: Karl Anthony Towns looks like Karl Anthony Towns again. Karl Anthony Towns had 35 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and he shot the ball really well. Mind you, he was playing on one leg. He hurt his knee in the first half, and he still kept playing anyway, and he still looked really good out there. So shout out Karl Anthony Towns. He has honestly been probably the team's best player since the All-Star break. He's been phenomenal up to this point. Obviously it was a very like up and down first half of the year for Towns, but now he has started to really figure it out, and credit to him. If he plays the way he's playing right now, then the Knicks can go far, but the other guys have to do something as well. We can't afford to continue to have games where Bridges is getting 0 points or 7 points or however many it is, and the bench needs to also provide more. Yesterday, the bench did not score a point in the first half, and they didn't get that many bench points overall in general. Jose Alvarado, in particular, has really been struggling offensively, only averaging a little bit above 3 points in the last 10 games. Now, granted, he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes. He's only playing like north of 15 minutes a night in that stretch, but at the same time, I kind of wonder why his minutes have been cut so much and why he's not exactly getting into rhythm. I don't really know what it is. Obviously, the defensive impact, you still feel it at times, but if he's not doing much offensively, it's still going to hurt. So that leaves the question of, should they insert Tyler Kolek back into the rotation or Jordan Clarkson, one of those guys, somebody that can provide some offense, some scoring, ball movement, whatever it is, something to provide a spark, right? It does leave that question up in the air. But looking ahead for what's going on with this Knicks team, they have the third easiest schedule remaining on the season, and they have basically all tanking teams coming up. They have the Utah Jazz tomorrow night, who are quite literally trying to lose games. They are sitting guys that they don't need to be sitting, and they've literally gotten fined this year for tanking. So if the Knicks lose tomorrow night, then oh man, we're gonna have a lot of different other conversations about this team that I really don't want to have. So let's just hope that they can flush these two LA games out of the way and move on to tomorrow night against Utah. And then after that, they have like the Pacers and the Nets and the Pelicans are thrown in there, the Warriors. They have a lot of bad teams coming up after playing a really tough stretch where they, had basically all contenders for 5 straight games. Now they're going to have a bunch of tanking teams ahead of them. So this is their opportunity to kind of bounce back after this little mini rough patch right here with the 3 or 4 L's they've taken and really get themselves back on track and possibly overtake Boston for the second seed. Right now, Boston is 2.5 games up and they just got Jason Tatum back. So it's going to be even tougher to overtake Boston now at this point. As far as Detroit goes in the 1 seed, I don't know how realistic getting to them is. We're 5 games back of them with about like 16, 17 games left in the season. So it's possible. Do I think it's likely? No. I don't think they're going to end up as the 1 seed, but that's fine. At this point, I want them to avoid falling down to 4. If they fall down to 4, then that means that they'll probably have to play the Pistons in the second round if the Pistons make it there. And that's the matchup I'm trying. It sounds bad for a contending team to say that's a matchup I'm trying to avoid, but the Knicks did not handle the Pistons well at all this year. So if there's any way they can at least delay playing the Pistons until the ECF, that would be ideal because then by then, hopefully we're a much healthier team. Hopefully Deuce McBride is back on the floor. And of course, the other guys will, figure things out, kind of understand their roles in time for the postseason. But as far as everything else, like I said, they have an easy schedule coming up. So this is really their chance to um, do some damage, really make a run for that second seed or really do something in the Eastern Conference because the expectations on this team were sky high coming in. I mean, I came on here and said that they were going to be the 1 seed, that they'd have the number one offense. They're close to having the number one offense. They have like a third ranked offense in the year, but they're not really relatively close to the 1 seed. They haven't really been close to the 1 seed since December. So that might be out of the question. That's why I guess that's why some of the reactions from the fans have been so intense, if you want to call it that, because the expectations were very high. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush and say that we were expecting to watch a good playoff team. No, we were expecting to watch a team that is going to compete for a championship. And of course, this team can easily still compete for a championship. I'm not no in any way am I not coming on here to say that they're not a title team. No, I think that at their best, they are a title contender. I mean, we saw how they looked at their best when they played against San Antonio, when they played against Denver. That right there, like that's their best brand of basketball. If they can do that more often, that's a title team. But that's the problem. They haven't been able to consistently do that really all season. And that's why I guess we get so frustrated over these games because these were the same issues they had last year. These were the same things that got Tom Thibodeau fired, the same up and down season that kind of left us worrying throughout the playoffs why so many people didn't expect us to beat Boston either. And then, of course, we beat Boston and then we fall short to the Pacers in rather an embarrassing way. I mean, they lost game one the way they did. And then, the rest of the series was kind of just wrapped up at that point. So when you really look at it that way, I mean, the expectations are there. They're expected to run through the Eastern Conference all year long. People have been saying the Knicks are built to run through the East. They're built to be this good, this, that, the third, but they just can't find any consistency. Now, of course, the regular season is much different than the playoffs. I fully acknowledge that, but you know, at the same time, I some issues that happen in the regular season can carry over into the playoffs. It can kind of, tell you what kind of team you have that you're working with here. So those are just mild concerns. I mean, it's not like, I'm not coming on here and saying that they're completely screwed or they're going to be, a terrible team. They're not built for it. No, I'm not going to say none of that stuff because it's just not true. It's overreacting. There's been some people that have overreacted. I'll admit, even I've overreacted a little bit at times this year. When they were in that 2-9 stretch, I said I was ready to see things shake up. I was wrong about that. They don't need to really do that. I think the team is good enough. I think that there's some strategic flaws that are being with this team right now. I don't know if it's, personnel. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the players itself. I don't know if it's just, the long regular season and they're just looking to stay healthy for the playoffs. I don't really know anymore. This is one of the toughest Knicks teams to evaluate in a very long time. We've had some good Knicks teams over the years. We've had some bad Knicks teams over the years. And this is probably one of the toughest ones to really evaluate and kind of sense where they are. Last year, you felt like that team was able to kind of take a step forward, at least during the regular season, but then they only were a one win improvement from the year before. And then, of course, they made the ECF. So, of course, you can say right then and there they took a step forward. And quite frankly, during the Jalen Brunson era, the theme has been trending forward, taking steps forward. So, the hope is that this year they can take another step forward and reach the NBA Finals, which I think they are fully capable of doing. I fully believe that. I'm not going to say that they are not a finals team because I've seen a lot of people say that they're bound for a second round exit or even a first round exit. Granted, that could easily happen because the playoffs, I mean, anything could happen in the playoffs. The East is very much a tight race this year, but I'm not going to come on here and say that they don't have a chance to make the finals because they absolutely do. During that little tough stretch that I mentioned where they had like, 5 title contenders in a row, back to back to back to back, they showed that they can play their best brand of basketball at any given time. But we want to see that more often. We want to see that on a consistent basis. And we haven't quite seen that on a consistent basis. I feel like we can definitely see it more often than we really are getting at this moment. So that's really what I got to say about that stuff. But looking ahead, like I said, you got an easy schedule ahead. You cannot afford to lose a lot of games here. I mean, I'm not gonna expect them to go 9-0 over the next 9 or so games because expecting them to go perfect is, I mean, that's just an outrageous expectation for any team. Though I do think the Knicks are good enough to go 9-0 over the next 9 games. But if they don't, I'm not gonna lose my mind over it. What I will lose my mind over is if they go like 5-4 or 4-5, which would be terrible. If they manage to go under 500 against bad teams, oh man, we're having different conversations about this group. But I don't think that'll happen. I'm not gonna throw that energy in the air. But all I want to see is just some consistency. I want to see consistency on both ends of the floor, which is something like I said before that we haven't really gotten. And that's what's frustrating the most about it because I know they can do it. I know they're capable of being a consistent team on both ends, and it just hasn't gone that way so far. It has not been, working out like that. So I just want to see something. I want them to show me that they're capable of being a consistent team. And I want guys like Mikal Bridges to really step up because I'm sorry, but 7 points in 2 games it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And I want to point this out too because a lot of people on Twitter especially were coming to Mikal's defense, which I get it. You're supporting your players for a team that you're rooting for. I of course support all the players on my team, but I'm also going to keep things real. And if they're not playing well, I'm going to point it out. I'm going to criticize it. But we keep it basketball here. We don't make things personal here. And I seen some people were getting personally attacked for having a certain opinion about Mikal. I'm not gonna mention any names or nothing like that, but I'm sure a lot if you guys are on Twitter, you know exactly what I'm referring to. That people were not having a good time about the whole Mikal thing with the 5 picks. People hate that gets brought up, and I get it. It's not Mikal Bridges' fault um that he got traded for 5 first-round picks. It's not Mikal Bridges' fault. No, it's the organization's fault for overvaluing the player, and it's just unfortunate that price tag is going to be always attached to him no matter what. That is the reality. But I think a lot of us can say that we can definitely handle these types of situations in this type of season a bit better, and myself included. I think really we want consistency. That's really all we've been asking for. And I'm not, saying that I'm not guilty of it. No, I'm fully guilty of it. I mean, I've had my share of overreactions this year, and I think a lot of us have also had this year. We've also had times where we feel really jubilant about this team, where we feel great, where they're winning games and we feel fantastic about them. And then we feel at times where it feels like the sky is falling, but in reality, it's not falling. We just we're very reactionary because we are all Knicks fans here. We are passionate about this team. We have not seen this team have much success really ever. I mean, guys, I'm 23 years old. I was not around for any of those 70s championships. I wasn't even around for when they made the finals twice in the 90s. I wasn't around for any of that. Last season was the most amount of success I have ever witnessed with this group. So, with all that being said, I mean, I want this team to be successful. and I know how they can be successful. I know it's easier said than done. I've never stepped on an NBA court. I'm not a basketball player. I'm not claiming to be one. So I know it's easier said than done to be consistent and to do the things that we have outlined and stuff like that. But I think that's why some of us have reacted the way we have, because we expected more. We expect more out of this group. We know this group can do more, and we want to see it happen. You know, all in all, they could easily show it in the playoffs, and the regular season will all be forgotten about. That'd be great if if that ends up happening. If they end up winning a championship, or at least making the finals, which is what the expectation was, despite the up and downs in the regular season that they've had. Great. I'm not going to complain about that. I'm not going to say that, oh, my points and my agenda was proven wrong. No, I don't care about all of that. I make points on here and I say certain things, but it's not about making an agenda. It's about just, evaluating what I'm seeing in present time, and opinions change throughout the regular season. As the season goes, ebbs and flows, certain things develop, certain different storylines develop. Everything changes. It's not always a one all be all. It's not constant. Certain things change. And I think throughout the year we see that there's one common denominator, and that consistency has always been the issue. That's been the one big thing that has not been changing throughout the year. They have not been a consistent group. That is just the reality. They're not a consistent group. And that's not me saying that they are a bad group or a bad team. No, that's just me saying that they're inconsistent. It's true. They will look really good one week, look unbeatable. I mean, look at the 5 games where they had the tough stretch against San Antonio. That was one of the most perfect games that they have ever played this season. They were great on defense and of course on offense too, and they blew out one of the best teams in the entire league by 25 points. That's phenomenal. And then you have games and like Oklahoma City, that's a loss, but that's a good loss. I thought they played them really well in that game. But then you have games like these 2 LA games where, they were really pretty much just outclassed the entire time. I mean, I saw a stat from before from Sleeper Knicks on Twitter, and he said they in these 2 games in LA, they led for a total of 11 seconds. 11 seconds. I mean, that's you're straight up getting outworked by both of them. Now, granted, it's very tough to win on the West Coast. It's very tough to win in a back-to-back. I understand that. But it's not the same type of brand of basketball that they were playing before that, because before that, they were the best defense in the league. They were top 5 in net. They were doing all these good things on both ends of the floor. Everything seemed to work. That's what I want to see more often. Obviously, there's going to be nights where you just don't have it. Losing a game once in a while doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden not a consistent team. No. Yeah, obviously, there's going to be moments in the season where you may be winning a lot of games and then one night you just don't have it. That happens. It's a long season. It's going to happen. But I feel like with this group since December, it has been too much of, a really bad streak, then followed by a really great streak, followed by another bad streak, followed by like an average streak. I feel like they're just not staying in rhythm. I feel like we're not getting consistently a prolonged, consistently good stretch of basketball. And maybe the numbers will tell a different story, because they're 16-7 over their last 23 games, and they're still one of the best teams in the league if you expand it that further. But when you also look past the NBA Cup, I mean, past December, they're 18-15. They had that 2-9 stretch. Obviously, the 2-9 stretch is a big reason why the record looks like that. But still, they had a stretch that bad for pretty much an entire month, and then you follow it up with an 8-game winning streak, pretty much erasing all of that. But then you kind of just go back and forth a little bit, because I mean, now we're looking at a team that's lost 3 of their last 4 games, and meanwhile the Pistons have lost 4 in a row. So this was your opportunity to inch closer to them, and also stay within striking distance of Boston, because they're playing really well right now, and they failed to capitalize on that. And that's what's frustrating about it, because it's right there. If there's any Yankee fans in here, everyone gets annoyed when Aaron Boone says it's right in front of us. Well, this time it literally is right in front of us. It is right there. They are like, we have an opportunity to grab the first seed in the East. We have opportunities to do that, and they have not taken that opportunity, and that's what's frustrating. Again, though, like I said before, I think a lot of us can, look at ourselves a little bit and say maybe we can handle this season a little bit better. I'll be better about it. I will admit I've overreacted a lot this year. I've had my moments. I think everyone's had their moments, but I think we also need to kind of sit back and relax a little bit and realize we're all rooting for one common goal here. We're rooting for this team to win a championship, and there's no point in jarring back and forth with other people and, you know, going after people for certain opinions or certain takes that they had because that's just not who we are. That's not what I'm trying to do. I don't come on here to argue with people. If I disagree with something that's said, I disagree, but I won't make it about a personal thing. That's not what I do here. And I don't look to argue with people. And I think after some losses, the amount of tension in some of the fans, it shows, and it's reasonable. I mean, we're diehard fans. We are entitled to react however we want to react. It's a long season. And I think a lot of us, including myself, need to realize that and kind of just see how things play out. And that doesn't mean I'm going to defer from expressing my opinions on here. I'm blessed to even have this platform and be able to talk with you guys about it. But that's just the reality is it's a long season, 82 games. It's very long season. We even have a longer postseason and all that. So it's we got a while, we got a ways to go. We still have plenty more basketball ahead of us, and that's just what's gonna happen. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I can't control how people are gonna react. I can't control everything. I can't make everybody happy. Nor do I expect everybody watching this or anybody who does follow my stuff to agree with everything I said. That's not what I'm here to do either. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're entitled to disagree, agree, whatever it is. And to anybody who even tunes into my stuff, or whether it's these streams or whether it's the Instagram page or anything, I appreciate all of that. It's one of the best things. It's literally the best job in the world for me. So that's what I love about this. But at the same time, we want this team to win a title. It's a tough season. We have an expectation to win a title. We have an expectation to make the finals. So yeah, sometimes we will get a little upset when things aren't playing out the way we expected them to play out. But that doesn't mean we're giving up. That doesn't mean we're not going to be on track to do something good, be successful. No, at the end of the day, I mean, we will stick it through and stick through every single game until we physically cannot do it anymore. It's a very long season, so that's really all I got to say on that stuff. But before we do wrap up a stream and stuff, I want to look at Instagram comments and see if anybody's got anything interesting that they want to ask me or want to say anything, because there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people, a lot of passionate fans. So if anybody has anything that they want to ask in the comments section, have at it. I'll answer a couple questions before I get off of this stream. But yeah, I'll even look through the chat too to see what else some people were saying, because I wasn't really looking at the chat while I went on that long monologue. Let's see. So someone said Shamit can get a bucket off the bench, but I don't trust him to make shots on All-Stars while also scoring more to account for his poor defense. Well, this is where I disagree a little bit, and I disagree in one area of the poor defense portion. I think Shamit's defense has actually been very solid this year. Do I think he's like an OG Anunoby level defender? No, absolutely not. But I do think his defense is underrated. I feel like he deserves a lot more credit for the way he defends, the way he has performed on that end. I think he gives effort, he hustles, and I think the shooting is an important aspect of his game, that why I believe that he should be starting. I understand the metrics with him starting aren't the best, but they got to try something different, because they cannot afford to um they cannot afford to keep starting Hart and going down double digits every single game. It's it's just not working. The metrics do not lie. Then that starting five is one of their worst lineups. Their better lineups actually include Deuce McBride, but obviously he's injured right now, so we can't do anything really about that. So in the meantime, I think you can have Shamit be a serviceable option to start at the two alongside Brunson. I personally think that's what they should do, but you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what Mike Brown is thinking or what they want to do. So Jose needs to step it up. Yes, he really does need to step it up. Jose Alvarado, as I mentioned before earlier in this stream, he's been struggling of late. He's only averaging like 3 points over the last 10 games. And I know like scoring isn't like his big thing. It's not like, his main game or anything like that. it's just who he is. He's a guy who's a pest defender, and he's can score a little bit, but his usage has definitely gone down a little bit. His minutes have really been cut. He was getting like between 15 to 20, 25 minutes a night when he first showed up here. And last night he played 8 minutes. And against the Lakers, he played 7 minutes. And then the 2 games before that, he played 12 minutes against OKC and 11 minutes against Denver, even though we blew Denver out by 40. So he couldn't even really still eclipse more minutes. So that's kind of the issue there. If Alvarado is not going to get a ton of minutes, then um that how I don't really know how he's going to be able to get into a rhythm. Someone said, I think we can definitely bounce back with the schedule we have and get motivated. Yeah, this is the time to right the ship. It's obviously not a sky falling slump. It's 3 or 4 games. It's not that many games, but it's still a slump you want to get out of, especially at this time of the year when the East is in a very close race and you're still very much fighting for a second seed. You want to be able to have home court advantage in the second round if you end up playing like say the 2 seed in or the 3 seed in the second round. So this is their chance to get back on track and to really um, get moving. They're playing a bunch of tanking teams. They're playing a lot of bad teams coming up. They have a very light schedule ahead. I'll even pull up the schedule right now for you guys just to even lay out exactly who they are playing. I know that for a fact that they have like straight tanking teams on the schedule, and that's where you have to take advantage. You have to. Okay, so I have it pulled up here. So they have the Jazz tomorrow night, then they have the Pacers, then they have Golden State, then they have the Pacers again, then Brooklyn, Washington, New Orleans, Charlotte. That is from now until March 26th. Charlotte, of course, is a very solid team. That is a stretch right there of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of 8 or 9 games right there that you have to take advantage of. You have to. You have to find a way to come out of that stretch really strong, winning a lot of games. You have to. I mean, the only winning team that I named right there, aside from the Hornets being about a 500 team, the only winning team I named right there was Golden State, and Golden State is 500 right now, I believe. And they probably won't have Steph Curry when we play them. So these are games you have to win. There's no excuse around it. You cannot afford to lose these games. You got to win these games. Got to win them. Got to win them. Because then after that stretch, they have Oklahoma City on the road, Houston on the road, the Grizzlies on the road. The Grizzlies are not good. The Bulls, not good, but that's at home. Then they have the Hawks, Celtics, Raptors, Hornets to close out the year. So to close out the year, they have the last 3 games of the season are against playoff/play-in teams. So the end of the year will be tough, but pretty much the big stretch before that, this is your opportunity. They have such a light overall schedule overall in the next remaining games. This is the time to take advantage. This is the time. You have to. They have to be able to close the gap between them and Boston and potentially Detroit, but they have to close that gap. They cannot afford to miss this opportunity. Now, if they win all these games and Boston continues winning and they don't gain ground, so be it. The Knicks are doing their job. What will hurt when we look at it that way, if that ends up happening, we'll look back at that 2-9 stretch and say that 2-9 stretch is why they're in that position. So it goes back to the consistency thing. Got to be consistent. You cannot afford to continue to go back and forth like this. You cannot afford to just be up and down, looking to waiting to find a rhythm. No, you have to do something now, and you got to be actually consistent. Someone said, realistically, do you think a Knicks Pistons series ends up with a Knicks win? That's a tough question, man, because I really want to say yes because I'm a Knicks fan and I believe them at their best is a very good team. But man, that Pistons team has been good this year. Their defense has been very good. Their physicality has been very good. They have completely worked us this year. I mean, we literally lost in the 3 games by a total margin of like 84 points. So, do I think it'll end up in a win? I'm not going to say yes or no right now. I'm not going to say yes or no right now. But I will believe in this team. I'm not going to give up on this team. But I think right now the Knicks need to show that they can hang with the Pistons. I think that is the one team right now, honestly, that I believe that they're gonna have an issue with. That is the one team. I feel like if you give them 7 games against Oklahoma City in the finals, that they can at least make that a series. If you give them 7 games against the Spurs in the NBA Finals, that they can beat the Spurs. The Pistons is the one team I'm worried about. And someone had a good point. If they figure out Cade, yes, then you can beat the Pistons. I think you can end up with a win there. But that's the problem. Can they figure out Cade? I thought they would have been able to do that in their last matchup, given that they didn't have Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, and Cade still walked out of the Garden with 42. So that's the problem. That's where I'm worried about. And someone just mentioned too that the Pistons lost the Wizards, Nets, Spurs, teams we've beat. I know, and it's a long regular season, so ultimately the results that happen in the regular season will mean absolutely nothing once the postseason begins. But it can at least still be an indicator of who exactly you are, what kind of team you're built like, all that stuff. It does matter to a degree. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. We'll have to see. That's really all I can say about the Pistons. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit and see if there's other comments um that I passed up on. Let's see. Someone said Bridges had 3 good games in a row. Where was he scoring? Look, with Bridges, he has been the most confusing player to evaluate this season because he had such a great start to the year and he was very consistent throughout the start of the year on both ends of the floor. If anything, he was looking like a DPOY candidate at one point, but unfortunately, he just hasn't had it going of late. He hasn't gotten the shot to fall. He hasn't been aggressive. It's been kind of too often with him though. And I pointed it out yesterday, and I'm going to talk about it again real quick. The inconsistency of Mikal Bridges is easily one of their biggest problems right now. I would even argue it is their biggest issue because the lack of consistency you're getting out of a guy who you anticipated being your one of your top options is just not providing it much of anything right now. And it's been that way too often. I honestly I'm disappointed a little bit because I expected Bridges to have a good year with Mike Brown. I expected it to be a lot better for him. I thought he would have a great season, and it looked like I was right in the first month or so, but he just hasn't been working. I don't know if it's the way he's being used. I don't know if it's the way he fits alongside his teammates. I don't know anymore. He's the most confusing player for me to evaluate because some nights he does look very good. He makes impactful plays, even if he isn't lighting up the box score. But other nights, he has like the Lakers game, for example, where he was a total ghost, where he was basically a sole reason why they were in the deficit they were and why they could never climb out of it. And even last night against Clippers, 7 points in 26 minutes, getting benched down in crunch time. It's just too much. It's too inconsistent. I feel like I've spent too much of the year waiting for him to break out and to really be consistently a good consistent performer. It just hasn't happened. So I don't really know um what else I can say about Bridges at this point. I'm looking through comments just to see if there's anything else that I might have glossed over, might have not touched on before we do wrap this up. I'm going to wrap this up very shortly. Um, also, someone said at this point, if you don't perform, you sit, starter or not, and everything doesn't need to be a three if they're not pop and get in the paint. No, I agree. I agree. I like. This is the thing. I like the idea of putting more threes up because I think in this NBA in today's NBA at least you have to shoot more threes. But I think at times the Knicks do get a little over reliant on the threes and pass up good looks in the paint or good drives to the basket. I feel like it does happen a lot. And also, as you pointed out too, if the threes are not hitting, they do need to try something else. So you can't just keep forcing up threes and hoping they go in. I mean, that's kind of like the Celtics won a championship shooting a lot of threes, but the Celtics shooting a lot of threes is also what buried them last postseason against us. So it's very do or die. You're taking a massive risk by taking so many threes. It happens. Someone said, "Do I think Clarkson needs more minutes?" Mm, no, I mean I'm not gonna say Clarkson needs more minutes just because like his defense is still very much an issue. The defense with Clarkson is not good really at all. But I will say if they need more offense, which currently the offense has been an issue, then maybe you should play Clarkson in some spurts. But I don't think this should warrant Clarkson, like, I guess, quote unquote, re-entering the rotation. I don't think we're at that point, at least not yet. I think the defense, and as someone just pointed out, the foul trouble. I think that stuff with Clarkson is why he's out of the rotation currently. I think that's exactly why. I don't think it really had much to do with his scoring. Obviously, his scoring kind of fell off a little bit after the NBA Cup, but I think with a bench player, you kind of just live with it sometimes. But the foul trouble, the lack of defense, the fact that we have other options such as Shamit and Diawara to kind of take those minutes away from him, it just made sense to take Clarkson out of the rotation. A guy that I would consider possibly putting back in the rotation is Tyler Kolek. And the reason I say that is because I know he's not like, some crazy score, but clearly they need more offense, they need more ball movement, they need quicker pace, and Tyler Kolek does bring that, and he was bringing that at the start of the when he was in the rotation for a little bit. So maybe they do. Maybe they don't bring him back in the rotation. Maybe having him play those minutes yesterday was just a one-off thing because Alvarado was really struggling. I don't know. Someone asked if they should start Diawara. Nah, I think the role Diawara is in right now is perfectly fine. The reason I'm against starting a rookie is just because of the point in the season that we are in. We have 16 games left, and I think going to start the rookie is I don't want to say detrimental to his development, but I don't think it would positively impact his development. I think the role he's in right now, and coming off the bench and playing in spurts will help him develop more and help him really refine his skills a little bit. I think that's really where I think about the OR. I'll answer one more question and then I'm gonna wrap this stream up. So if anyone's got anything they want to ask me, um, let it rip. And said Mo is smart, but he's still got some kinks to work out. He's a great role player. Yeah, it's rookie stuff. Rookie stuff. That's what rookies do. Someone said, "How do you feel about Kevin McCullough?" I mean, he's not going to get any minutes. I think he can be an interesting player though in a year or two. I think he's got some promise. I definitely think he does. I think he's just got a ways to go before he can make an impact now, but I think he's got a ways to go. I think he's a promising player. Someone said, "Is Brunson game falling off?" Okay, so this will be the last question I'm going to answer, and I'm going to answer this one as quickly as possible. But to the people that have been criticizing Jalen Brunson so heavily over the past week or two, guys, shooting slumps happen, okay? They do happen. But even aside from the lack of scoring that he's done, or I mean, he had 26 last night or 28 last night, whatever it was, but the other games, of course, he wasn't shooting the ball very well. But aside from that, he's still impacting the game positively because he's still making he's kind of like developing some playmaking skills. Yes, at times it looks clunky and at times he's turned the ball over. It's not been great. But I think the other guys on the floor also are playing a part in that kind of issue, I guess, with the turnovers and stuff. There's no spacing when Josh Hart starts. Teams are willing to just throw their centers on Hart and not really have him guard him and throw the wings on Cat. And we all know Cat kind of struggles a little bit with wings on him, and he does so much better when there's a pure center on him. Brooke Lopez was guarding Cat last night, and Cat had probably one of his best games of the season. So the way I see it there, I think Brunson's game has it fallen off? Absolutely not. I think Brunson's still having a phenomenal season, and I think he will snap out of his little funk. I thought last night he showed that he can snap out of that funk. He had 28 points, but of course it wasn't the most efficient night. And as someone just pointed out too, he gets doubled and triple teamed all the time because of the lack of spacing. When Josh Hart is out there, not even looking at the basket, not even willing to shoot the ball when he's open at the three, that hurts the spacing a ton. And that's why the offense gets so clunky, and that's why there's no cohesion. It's a recipe for disaster. So I think the only way to fix that really is by making a lineup change in the starting five. And maybe we're too late into the season to make that change. And I understand if you guys think that's the case, it makes sense. But I think we're long past the point of that starting five that we have seen this year truly working out. I mean, it's kind of the reason why Tibbs got fired because he was not willing to change that starting five when it wasn't working. And now Mike Brown is kind of back to doing the same thing. So I don't know if that's like ownership stepping in, saying to keep the starting five the way it is for the sake of how it's been. I don't know. I really can't answer that. I cannot answer that truthfully. But whatever it is, that lineup needs to change. But Anyways, guys, I do think we are at a point where I can wrap this stream up. We've been live for about 40 minutes, and I kind of just wanted to come on here real quick and chat with you guys about it. So, if you guys enjoyed this stream, let me know. I really hope you guys do because I'll do more of these if you guys like these. Um, follow us on all of our social media platforms as well. We are on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course YouTube. That some of you guys are watching this stream on, some of you guys on Instagram as well. If you guys are watching this on Twitter or YouTube, you can follow my personal Twitter account. It is right there on the screen. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks, guys. Peace out, and let's go Knicks.